Most know Saitama for two things: his incredible power and his incredible lack of expression. However, those of us who know Saitama know that despite his unfazed demeanor a lot of the time, he is a human just like anyone else whose buttons can be pressed in a variety of ways. And just like anyone else, he can get real mad. So what happens when he does? Let's take a look. This is Saitama World, a channel focused on the One Punch Man anime and manga, so subscribe and click on that notification bell to kick it with the S-Class. The first example is going to be a treat for many of you, for it's one that some fans have forgotten or even missed. Hidden away in the first season of the One Punch Man specials, a complimentary set of OVAs which explores side events to the main story, is an episode called Bang, who is too overbearing. I'll cover the full set of events in a future video, but to move the story along, Bang, Genos, and Saitama end up competing at Bang's dojo, a situation conjured up by the cunning old fox to try and inspire Saitama into learning Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. Deducing that a sparring session might be a little too dangerous for everyone involved though, Bang instead decides that he could contest with the cyborg Baldy duo via a modified game of rock, paper, scissors, where at each stage the winner conducts an attack, in this case by lifting a toy hammer from the ground and striking it on the head of the opponent, and the loser has to play defense in that very moment by picking the ball up from the ground and placing it on their head before being struck by the attack. It's a game that tests anticipation, composure, and reflexes, and after Genos was schooled by the old boy, Saitama was up next. And this is where things got a little heated. As you can expect from someone with such finesse as Bang, this little game didn't go so well for Saitama, and as it went worse and worse, repeatedly getting bopped on the head by a toy hammer like a streamlined whack-a-mole, that competitive drive within him soon started to twist into a rage that had him more tilted than your average Valorant player. Then, finally, Saitama scored a point, and it was his turn to strike, so desperate for success that he couldn't even grasp the hammer accurately at first. And after a heartwarming little flashback of how Bang was reminded of his dojo's heyday, oh boy, something menacing was on the other side of that flashback. Not quite a hairless Bakugo Katsuki, but certainly a hero ready to explode. Thankfully, Bang's quick thinking to avoid one hammer man ensured we didn't lose a beloved S-Class hero that day. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to convince Saitama to take up Bang's training offer, but it showed us that even the great Saitama can get so effortlessly outworked into seeing red. If you've never seen that moment before, or simply forgot it, be sure to hit that like button to help the channel. The next example is a classic that many of you will be sure to know, especially when I say it involves bargains. One way to rock Saitama's emotions to the core is to have him miss out on a whole day of supermarket deals without even realizing it. While facing off with Carnage Kabuto in the House of Evolution, the science-engineered monster built by Dr. Genus seemed to have our favorite skinhead on the ropes after activating Carnage mode, which by the way is one bad boy looking transformation for a monster. And it's after this transformation where Kabuto delivers some devastating news. He claims he'll be in this all-powerful state for a whole week, meaning it'll end next Saturday. That's where Saitama's psyche began to crumble, and as Carnage Kabuto proceeded to beat Saitama like a stepchild, it became clearer and clearer to us that Saitama's distraught vibe wasn't because he was being treated like a training dummy in Tekken, but instead all because this meant that if today was Saturday, then he'd gotten his schedule mixed up and missed, you guessed it, a gigantic Saturday sale at the supermarket, which prompted this response from him. As you can see, this is only the type of expression someone would make when they are truly upset, marking how the thought of missing a bargain day at the supermarket gave Saitama one of his worst emotional spikes in recent times. Thankfully for him, Genos informed him the store didn't shut until 10 PM, so if they rushed back, they'd make it in time to land some sweet deals before closing. Oh, and he punched through an impenetrable wall on his way out. Moving from one classic to another, we have have the Mosquito Incident. Yeah, I think we're finding out that, funnily enough, it's the smaller things in life which get the bigger reactions from Saitama. While the scene may have barely lasted a minute, Saitama's patience was truly tested like few other times, to the point where his teeth did more grinding than Tony Hawk's skateboard. Taking a look into the manga during the Monster Association arc, while evading a wide-scale attack where a certain terrifying monster was attempting to absorb any and every piece of flesh it could, the demonic mass made the mistake of invading Saitama's personal space in the most offending way by sloppily swiping across his shiny bald head. The molesting of his scalp peeved him off so much that he let loose a fierce punch in its direction to completely splatter it and send shockwaves through a vast chunk of the Monster Association complex, which caused temporary chaos and earthquake-like reactions across the base on many levels. Lesson of the day: never touch a smooth scalp without permission. This next moment led to one of the most enjoyable punches from Saitama in the whole anime series. And like earlier with Bang, we have an S-class hero to thank for it too. Well, an S-class hero in name only, King. While he may not be as strong a hero as the general public believes him to be, what is true is that King is most definitely an S-class gamer, as Saitama found out the hard way. Repeated losses in a fighting game against King were steadily building Saitama's anger levels until the hero for fun was completely tilted, his health bar constantly hopped upon by a bunny suit wearing babe who fought like Goku when controlled by King. Add to the fact that King was constantly antagonizing him later on with further comments after more defeats, which would be enough to turn Bruce Banner green if he were a competitive gamer too. Saitama's temper was well and truly cracked. However, as angry as he was, he knew he couldn't take it out in an unhealthy way. Well, an unhealthy way for King. Instead, they took the chance to go and deal with that pesky, overgrown centipede which had troubled 4 S-class level fighters so far. And with Saitama himself having said beforehand that he was ready to smash some heads, it was clear that Saitama's built-up stress meant that Sentichuro stood no chance against one of the most epic punches within the whole anime thus far. Wrong place, wrong time, Sentichuro. Alright heroes, this next one is going to come with a spoiler warning. This moment will cover a huge scene in the manga that if you haven't read, you won't want to have spoiled for you. And I'm not talking like this is a slap across the face type spoiler where it's gonna sting for a bit but then you'll get over it. No, this is a I've just pulled out a handgun and shot you type spoiler. So for the anime only one punchers out there, this extended warning is so you don't fall to the ground bleeding out from spoilt narrative. Okay, let's get into it. We've had some pretty amusing reasons so far as to why Saitama has gotten mad in the past, but this next one truly gave him a reason for turning livid as it did to us all. The death of Genos. Deciding that in order to draw out the maximum power and motivation of Saitama, Garo ripped Genos' power core out from his chest and callously tossed it toward our hero. What we got from Saitama was an anger that was more internal than external. No shouting, no screaming, no steam emitting from his ears. It was the kind of anger that transcended audible rage. And if anyone watching this video has ever been so angry before in their life that they took on such frightening composure of furiousness, they would understand this feeling completely. Saitama had just lost someone who he had become used to having around. Someone he had spent meaningful time with, someone who had become his friend. And the pain of that loss was evident in the actions he took and how he conducted himself after. A slept-on part from this moment is how Saitama felt so much negative emotion from this situation that even when he had finally gotten what he had been desperate for, the whole series, the very thing motivating him the most, which would cause him great joy to finally attain, even that was not enough to balance out the subdued rage of losing his disciple. The experience he wanted most within the whole series finally here, yet the sorrow of losing Genos overshadowed it completely until that dream felt like a pitch black void in comparison. We were treated to some incredible visuals throughout this battle because of how Saitama's emotions fueled his battle spirit. However, I won't go fully into all the detail or the outcome, since I feel this battle and its climax is absolutely best relived properly by yourself. It's more than worth your time to revisit it, so go and do so after liking and subscribing. And rounding up the video with a far smaller but still entertaining moment to end on a lighter note, the Paradises. In a quick scene within One Punch Man, Saitama wasn't all too invested in the Paradises' scheme of causing mayhem in the city as it aired on the television in front of him while he went about his day, until it was reported that all of the Paradises were bald men, and that it was being widely advised to stay away from bald men because of these crimes. This entire situation put his own reputation at risk, and through no fault of his own, may have had his entire hero career up to this day thrown to the wolves through the actions of those bald frauds. The thought alone had Saitama all riled up enough to zip into his hero suit in no time and profess that he was gonna punch their heads in. One shiny head shouldn't suffer due to the actions of other shiny heads, am I right? Even still, it didn't stop him from being mistaken for one of them out on the streets. However, what may have actually occurred between them, we'll never know, since the ruthless ninja got to them first with lethal precision and pretty much handled it all himself. Damn it, what was his name again? Seed on the ground? No, Lost and Found. Oh, Jack-o'-lantern Panic. That was it. How could I forget? What moment of Saitama losing his temper was your favorite and why? What other moments of an angry Saitama have you enjoyed which weren't in this video? And since we're on the topic of heroes, if you want to know what you can learn from the best heroes in the world to improve your own capabilities for 2025 and the years ahead, subscribe and click on the video that's appeared